There are people getting up before the butt crack of dawn to get a plastic bucket from Dunkin' Donuts. And it's not donuts, and it's definitely not some secret menu item that, people always say are secret menu items, but aren't really secret menu items. It is a 48-ounce drink bucket. Yep, you heard me right. 48 ounces of coffee injected into your vein. Dunkin' Donuts originally rolled this viral 48-ounce coffee bucket out a few weeks ago, and one customer reportedly drove over an hour to get this bucket at 5 o'clock in the morning. And then the people behind them bought five, which already raised several questions for me when I first came across this online. But then I realized something else that I'm sure the people who bought these buckets also realized. The bucket doesn't fit in a normal cup holder. Like, it is a literal bucket. And because it, of course, doesn't fit in the cup holder, Duncan decided, you know what? We're going to solve y'all's problems and we are going to release a bucket holder to help mitigate this issue. And this bucket holder goes inside of your normal cup holder so you can take this giant crazy bucket with you while you're driving and drink your coffee. Literally, Duncan decided we're just going to create something new and create infrastructure for carrying out this coffee. And I can't stop thinking about this because logically, this big bucket should make this product worse and should make people not want to get it because people usually like accessing products that are easier, smaller, more convenient, and more portable, right? Especially drinks. Ideally compatible with the vehicle that you're already owning, and yet people were still waking up before this bucket holder was built to get this coffee, driving across town, hunting these things down. So, what exactly are they buying? Because I don't think the 48 ounce of beverage storage really explains all of this. So, let's read the room. Hi, welcome back to Read the Room, the corner of the internet where we study why certain people, places, ideas, products, brands, and cultural moments become impossible to ignore. I'm Erica Ige. I study people, culture, psychology, and performance to understand why we respond to things the way we do. Around here, we're not just asking why something worked, we're asking what people notice, what they interpret it, and what made them care. And most importantly, what that response teaches us about creating things and creating brands and businesses that are worth paying attention to. And the first thing that I noticed about this bucket is that it creates a problem that ordinary drinkware just absolutely does not have, right? Because when you're going to drink coffee, you're going to enjoy your coffee because you want to enjoy your coffee. You don't want it to be inconvenient. Most people are getting coffee because they didn't sleep well at night, or most people are getting coffee on their way to work. You're thinking when you see a normal Dunkin' Donuts cup, like, okay, yeah, like I got some coffee. They got some coffee to drink. Cool. You see somebody approaching you with one of these buckets, though, you're going to automatically think, okay, why do they have a small aquarium full of a strawberry dragon fruit refresher or, this large thing of coffee? Like, I have questions like, number one, where are you going? Do I want to come? How long does it take for you to finish it? Are you hydrating or preparing for natural disaster? Like, the bucket interrupts the normal pattern that you experience when people are drinking coffee from their favorite coffee company, right? And that sounds silly, but the interruption is actually extremely valuable because most functional products are designed to disappear into the behavior that they support. So, getting a regular cup of coffee is designed to disappear into everybody's normal morning routine or normal routine that people have around getting coffee, right? You put the coffee in a cup, you put the cup in the car, you drink the coffee, and you go to work. That's it. The end. Nobody gets to work and says, "Oh my God, you guys are not going to believe how my normal travel mug behaved this morning," right? But this Dunkin' Donut keeps creating situations. Like, where do you put it? How heavy is it? How long does it take you to drink that thing? What else can fit inside of this bucket of coffee? Like, are you actually gonna drink all of that? The product keeps giving people something to react to, and the reactions are definitely creating stories online, as you can see through some of the content that we've already scrolled through and clicked through. Like, it's an absurd product. And something else that came out during the original test that was like a customer joked with another buyer, like, they might need some command hooks to hang this bucket up in their car because it was definitely not gonna fit in their cup holder. And, like, technically, when you think about it, I know maybe Duncan didn't think about this, but technically, that is a design flaw, right? But it's also a story. It also became a part of the lore around these buckets because then Dunkin' didn't just leave it there as, like, a customer complaint, like, "Okay, like, yeah, you can't fit the coffee bucket into your cup holder. Oh, well, but at least you got coffee." Like, no, they didn't care about that. They also were like, "We should do something about it." They listened to the complaint, and then they made a holder for it. Not a smaller bucket, a holder to hold the already large, absurdly large bucket for their customers, and that distinction matters because imagine if they chose the alternative. If customers were saying, "Yeah, like, we really like this enormous bucket of coffee that you gave us, but it doesn't fit in our cars." And if Duncan took that feedback and said, "Thanks. Next year, we're gonna release a tumbler." Yes, that's very practical, it's very convenient, but it's also completely forgettable. The size of this also caused attention. So instead of removing the weird feature, which is the absurd size of this bucket, they fixed the problem around it. The bucket still got to remain ridiculous, but it can travel easier now. And that's where I think this becomes more than just like a super funny Duncan story, which is also funny as a part of their brand. So this is actually very on brand for them. But what other businesses need to take away from this is that when you hear customer complaints all the time, the instinct is often to remove the thing that people are complaining about or smooth it out in some sort of way and make it easier for people to kind of, just deal with. But customer feedback can actually mean two different things. It can mean, I hate this, change this, or it can mean, I love this, help me live with it. Those are not the same problems. And if you confuse them, you can optimize the personality right out of the product. And now, I don't want you to leave this video thinking that you should go intentionally create unusable products because that might not work out as well for you as it did for Dunkin' Donuts, right? But the question really is the unusual feature preventing people from getting the value out of the product, or is the unusual feature part of the value of the product? The bucket needed to be transportable, but that didn't necessarily mean that there needed to stop being a bucket. And once you get past like the initial weirdness of it all, something else starts to happen. The product becomes recognizable. It builds lore. There's a story around it now. There was a bucket, then there was a cup holder problem, then they built the holder, and now they are like, yeah, I got a holder for this large bucket. And people are trying to find one. It's already limited edition, and stores are selling out of it. So the person who absurdly bought 5 of these for no reason, has this story that is created around it. And of course, the scarcity aspect of it turned it into kind of a hunt to get this limited edition thing that other people were not going to get access to. And people really, really are motivated by having limited edition things. Like the scarcity behind it matters, but scarcity wasn't the only thing that was at play here because you can create scarcity for an object, but if there's not meaning assigned to the thing that is scarce, it doesn't mean anything. Like you can make a limited edition beige stapler tomorrow available at like Office Depot or whatever across America, and people would still probably like not get it, right? But if you create something like this that already is lovable, funny, recognizable, and is generating new behavior around something that is already usually a routine for people, like buying a coffee, suddenly the language of it is changing. You're not just saying, "Oh, I bought one." You're saying, "I got one." Like one of those things. Like the sentence already has a plot. You know what I mean? And so people are like wondering like, did you go early? Was your location sold out? Did you check like multiple Dunkins? Did somebody grab the last one before you? Like, does your friend resent you because you have this cup and they don't? The acquisition of it becomes a part of the experience. I have my own example of this, not with Dunkin' Donuts, but with another food brand. Popeyes. You remember a few years ago when Popeyes was like, we're going to come out with a chicken sandwich, and our chicken sandwich is going to be the one to beat out Chick-fil-A. They literally created lore around creating a competition with Chick-fil-A to have the best chicken sandwich. And they did it. They were the brand that did it first. Like, of course, there were other brands like Wendy's and Burger King that already had chicken sandwiches, but everybody didn't think that their chicken sandwiches were memorable. So Popeyes came and snuck into the market and was like, Chick-fil-A, We challenge you to a duel, and we're gonna duel with our sandwiches, and we're gonna be the ones that do it." And they purposely made these sandwiches limited so that people couldn't access them. So people were clamoring over them for weeks. And I have to say with shame that I was definitely one of the people clamoring over this sandwich, right? I went to one of their stores at like 6 o'clock in the morning to get a sandwich for my husband and I. And when I tell you people were fighting over these sandwiches, I was not, because I was not going to fight over a sandwich. And people were in there ordering like 5 and 10 at a time. Like, and these poor workers at Popeyes were like, "Look, man, we only have like a limited amount of sandwiches. You can't come in here ordering this many." Like, they had to put a cap eventually on how many sandwiches people could get because they kept running out of them. It was crazy times, crazy times. But it's a perfect example of if you create a story and a lore around it, marketing wise, and then you spread it online, and then people talk about it online, you create like almost a little like participation, like drive or experience around it. People are gonna want it. They're gonna clamor over it. And that's exactly what happened with this freaking bucket. That's the point. Like, but I it also creates this other kind of thing that usually happens in comment sections underneath these videos of people like getting these buckets. Why would you care about getting this large bucket of coffee? Like, what's the point? And it actually reveals something really interesting because it's showing how two people can look at the same object and have two different perceived levels of value over it. One person could look at it from a functional place like, okay, how much does it hold? How often will I use it? Is it convenient? Does it fit anywhere? Like, why the heck is it the size of a toddler? And that's fair. But the other person, like this person in this video, they're looking at it for the experiential value. Like, is it funny? Is it cute? Like, will my coworkers lose their ish when I walk in carrying this? Do I get the limited one? Do I collect these? Will I remember hunting it down with my friend? Or do I simply just enjoy owning a stupidly large Dunkin' Donuts coffee bucket, which is also fair. And I think brands miss out sometimes on the massive value because they're focusing on function because it's easier to measure, feature, benefit, price, use case, very clean, right? But humans unfortunately insist on being human. And so people are buying things because they're funny or their friends have them or because it was fun to get them, right? Especially like right now in this current space and time that we're in the world, people are buying things because it just makes them feel good. Especially when you see stuff like this online. Like people just are like, "Can you explain to me like why you would buy this many freaking Dunkin' Donut buckets?" Right? And it's also super similar, I think, to something like concert merch. It performs the same a t-shirt performs the same function as another t-shirt. It covers your torso or maybe it's a crop top. It covers you in some way, right? But nobody is buying tour merch because they desperately are searching for cotton. They buy it because they went and they love the artist. They want to remember that night and they want to be a part of that particular era that the artist is on. Because usually, once the artist is finished with a tour, that's like the end of them marketing that specific CD or whatever. Like it's just done. So like the object, which is the t-shirt, becomes a receipt for the experience, right? So all I'm saying with this is that physical objects can hold more than functional value, and sometimes they hold evidence that you were there, just like these buckets do. Even with this picture, they are literally showing that they were there to get the bucket. It is creating an experience for them. You can see this happen all the time over and over again in culture when it comes to like limited drops or again, this viral menu item, a collaboration, a pop-up, something that everybody is literally trying to get for 2 weeks and then you don't hear about it again until it's time for it to happen again. So it's kind of cool because it kind of creates this cycle of repetition, especially if a brand like Dunkin' brings it back annually, right? And this is also where I like to point out where my be seen, be remembered, be chosen framework actually becomes useful. And normally I only talk about this framework in terms of personal brands or an actual person or a creator strategy, but this shows you how it also applies to actual products as well because the bucket gets seen because you can't confuse it with a normal coffee cup. Like if you're not talking about it, somebody around you is going to be talking about it because they're like, I know you're not going to drink that big old bucket of coffee, right? It gets remembered because it is generating stories. The size of it, the hunt to get it, the holder, the jokes, like all of those can become different brand stories. And Duncan doesn't have to do really anything about it. They just have to put it out there and then people are going to talk about it themselves, which creates more lore around the brand for Dunkin', right? Because when people are looking at it, they're like, I want into all of this. And that's what it means for being chosen. Like people want in, they want that participation. It's that they want to be bought into whatever is happening to this. Because once I started thinking about it that way, the bucket holder became the most interesting part of the story for me because Duncan, for me, could have just responded by being like, thanks, but you can just carry this bucket and go on about your business. But they preserved the thing that people became attached to and fixed the issues around it so it was easier for people. They just made it easier for people to get this bucket. They didn't get rid of the bucket. And that creates a very different creative decision for people. And I think it raises a question for businesses, especially if you're a business and you're thinking like you want to do something like this, maybe create a brand experience like this. You need to be thinking what part of the experience are people actually becoming attached to because it might not be what you originally think. And but then you shouldn't just stop there. You should also think if there is any friction around the thing that you're trying to create or the experience you're trying to create around it, what friction is stopping them from enjoying it? Because if you don't know the difference between that, you can actually improve the thing that nobody cares about until nobody cares about it anymore. And you also need to think when you're creating this, like, what will people do with this thing because it exists? Because you want people to get online and talk about it, like how they're talking about these Dunkin' Donut buckets, right? Are they going to compare it? Will they collect it? Will they make jokes out of it, customize it, hunt for it, take pictures of it, tell a story about getting it? Because all of that is creating a behavior and it's also creating free marketing. So, anyways, the whole point of this video is that if you have a product or a offer or a customer experience that people are responding to in ways that you didn't expect, there are ways that you can capitalize on it. And if you're not sure like what part of it is creating value or what part is causing friction, you should ask your customers or you should listen to what they're saying because they that will usually tell you what you need to do. And be like Duncan because Duncan is the example of taking an experience and adding to it and not getting rid of what made the product unique in the first place. And so, if that is something that want support with, you want support in figuring out like what your product or services thing is granting your customers, but maybe how you can make it either have less friction or less issues without taking away from what made it so unique in the first place. That is exactly what my offer, the room read, is built to investigate. I look across your audience, your brand, your culture, your performance, and your customer experience to understand what people are actually responding to, what you may be missing, and what those signals that are currently happening in your brand are suggesting that you do next. If you want me to read your room, is linked below. I'll see you in the next one.